All right, so for this video, I'm going to go over every odd question. If you got one of the even one wrong, just watch one of the ways I do it for the odd and apply it to your number. So before we do anything, though, the first thing you just have to remember is that if we have a number 325 and we want to write this in scientific notation, it needs to be a number that is 1 through 9, and then a decimal point, and then whatever decimals we have left after that. So here our decimals considered to be after the 5, so we would move it two places to the left. So we get 3.25, and then it's times 10 raised to some power. And when we move, this is what you guys have to remember to help you when you're solving these questions. When we move to the left, we add to our powers. So this actually becomes times 10 to the second power because we move two places to the left. So that's just one of the things that you just have to remember. Left, you add. If it's 0.028, if we want to write this in scientific notation, well, we're moving it two places to the right to get to 2.8 times 10, and now this is going to be to the minus 2 power because we moved it two places. And for this one, if you move it to the right, you subtract. So I'm going to leave this up over here, this entire video, because this is what you might have to refer back to at every single time. Now, if we were to have a problem 3x squared times 6x to the fourth, well, we multiply, as we talked about before, our like parts with our like parts. So here we will multiply our coefficients with each other, and then here we will multiply our exponents, and we would then get 18, because 3 times 6 is 18, and x is 6 power. So our same thought process and same logic still work for this as well. We multiply our like parts with our like parts, meaning first we are going to multiply 3.5 times 9, and 3.5 times 9 gives me 31.5. And then we multiply our powers of 10 with each other. So it's 10 to the negative fifth power times 10 to the eighth power. And we know that we add those powers, and that then becomes times 10 to the third power, because negative 5 plus 8 is equal to 3. Not negative third to the third power, if I said negative 3. And then from here, we need to look, is our number in scientific notation? It's not. So we need to move it one spot to the left to get it into scientific notation. And when we move to the left, we add. So it'll be 3 plus 1 because we moved it one spot. So it becomes times 10 to the fourth power. All right, so for this one, same thing. We are going to do our likes times our likes first. So that means that we need to first do 6.3 times 2.4, and that is going to give me 15.12. And then we're going to multiply our powers of 10. So that becomes times 10 to the negative third power, because 2 plus negative 5 is equal to negative 3. Then we just need to look and say, okay, is our answer in scientific notation? It is not. So we need to move this one spot to the left, 1.512 times 10. And when we move to the left, we add. So when we add 1 to negative 3, it becomes to the negative 2 power. Now, I'm not explaining why when we move to the left we add, or why when we move to the right we subtract. That is something you should have learned before. So if you want me to explain that, just let me know, and I can explain that in more detail. All right, so same thing as before. We multiply our like parts with our like parts. So 5 times 7 is 35. And that gives me, now it becomes times 10. And then 6 plus negative 6 is equal to 0. So it's times 10 to the 0. When we say it needs to be written in scientific notation, even though 10 to the 0 power we know is equal to 1, we still need to write it like this. If this, like when we manipulate this, we're going to get another number anyway, but we would still have to write times 10 to the 0 if the directions say write it in scientific notation. Then we look and say, okay, here's our decimal. We need to move it one to the left. So it becomes 3.5 times 10. Well, when we move to the left, we add. So 0 plus 1 is 1. So you could write it as 3.5 times 10 to the first power, or 3.5 times 10. Either one of those will be acceptable. All right, so it's the same thing when we're dealing with division as well. We are going to do our like parts with our like parts. So then from here, the difference though is here, we're not saying, because when we write scientific notation, it's written not in fraction form. So we don't say where's there more of, like we did when it was just variables. We just always do our numerator divided by the denominator. And 3 divided by 8 is going to give me 0.375, 0.375. And then our rule when we divide, so it becomes times 10 to the 4, because when we divide, we subtract, and 5 minus 1 is 4. Then we look and see, is our number in scientific notation? No, we need to now move it 1 to the right. And when we move it 1 to the right, we subtract. So it becomes 3.75 times 10 to the third power. All right, so once again, when we do this one, but this one, the direction said round to the nearest 10th. So when we divide our parts here, 4.1 divided by 1.28 is going to give us 3.203125. So when it says round to the nearest 10th, here's our 10th place. We look at the digit after it. If it's 5 or higher, we then round it up. If it's 4 or 0, we then keep it as the number it is. So since this is a 0, it will stay as 3.2. So round it first before we do anything else. And then here it becomes times 10. And our rule is we subtract. So 4 minus negative 5 turns to plus, and that gives us 9. So it's times 10 to the 9th power. Since this is already written in scientific notation, we don't need to do anything else to it. That is our final answer. All right, and then the last question, I'm not going to go over any of the exceeding. Those ones are meant to see, can you guys apply things in different ways? And if I show it to you, it's not really seeing if you can apply it because I'm kind of teaching at that point. So exceeding questions are always going to just be more where you guys are, I'll give you the answer to it, but you guys have to then see if you can work that out. So we're doing our like parts with our like parts. Well, 7.8 divided by 1.2 is 6.5. So that's good because I know it's already going to be in scientific notation. 3 minus 4 is equal to negative 1. So it's times 10 to the negative first power. And that will be your final answer. All right, that is it for this video.